I have just a quick side note for Mr. Zadek. I greatly admire your tenacity. I wish that you had done better in the primary. I personally did not vote for Mark Kirk in the Republican primary. I voted for Patrick Hughes. I liked everything you had to say as well. I agree with you, I would think about 100% of the time. I agree with Mark Kirk maybe 70% of the time. I agree with Alexi Giannoulias 0% of the time. And I think, for as much as I do admire, like I said, admire your tenacity, I think right now we have a case of similar to the 90s. Had it not been for Ross Perot, we wouldn't have had Bill Clinton. I personally am supporting Mark Kirk because I think it's right now we need a Republican from the state of Illinois to help sway that balance away from Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and Barack Obama. That's just a side note. And please feel free to respond to that. My main thing is, you know, there's all this. Every election cycle, we hear well, we need to reach across the aisle and we need to work with the other party. Well, I'm sorry. Right now, the Democrat Party that's in charge, the health care vote proves that there's no such thing as a moderate Democrat. We have liberals, rampant liberal control of Illinois and at the federal level right now. My suggestion to you all, especially Randy, and to Senator Lawson as well, let's start pointing out how wrong they are and how right we are on the conservative side. Simple things like the terminology that gets used. We actually hear abortion referred to as reproductive health care. The willful termination of a human life is referred to as reproductive health care. No longer illegal aliens, they're undocumented workers. This is ridiculous. And I encourage, like I said, especially Senator Lawson and Senator Hultgren in your U.S. Congress aspirations. Yeah, we have to play nice to a certain extent, but we also have to point out how wrong the other side is and how important it is that we bring things back to reality. So if you feel free to comment on that, but I just encourage you to play nice until it's time to stop playing nice. I think it's time to stop playing nice.
Thank you. I appreciate your comment. I intend to play nice.
To answer some
Thank you very much.
Can I say something really quickly on that?
Sure.
Just to follow up, but I appreciate your point. I think it's very well stated. One thing I do think is so important, and I absolutely support term limits. I've signed the Contract from America, I think it's called, which is great statements of things that we need to change in recognizing that Congress is broken and turning it around. One thing I know that Chris and I agree on is that there is way too much power in a few leaders' hands in Springfield. The same thing is happening out in Washington, D.C. And I think it's very important that you ask the people who are going to represent you of who they're, if they're going to support current leadership or not. And I can guarantee you the incumbent congressman in our district and I will have a completely different vote on that very first vote in Congress. And that is who's going to be Speaker of the House. He's going to do the same thing he's done before. He's going to vote for Nancy Pelosi. I promise you, I will not vote for Nancy Pelosi. We need real change there. And we need the same thing down in Springfield. Mike Madigan has been in the House. Mike Madigan's been in the House for 40 years. 30 of those years, he's been Speaker of the House. That is broken. He's the one constant through all of the problems that we're seeing down there right now. I support term limits, but one thing we can do immediately, and this is something I'm going to support and push, is let's put term limits, real solid term limits on chairmanship out there. Just because someone has been there 40 years doesn't mean they're competent. It just means their constituents are crazy enough to continue to elect them. I look at someone like a Charlie Rangel, who's head of Ways and Means, the tax writing committee. We need to get rid of people like that and get people in those offices, those chairmanships, who really know what they're doing, are following the laws that they pass. That's one of the things, too, that Chris has sponsored that I think is an excellent idea, and that is an amendment to our Constitution to say that all congressional leaders have to abide by all of the rules that they pass out in Washington, D.C. They can't write one sentence, like we saw with healthcare. this healthcare bill was passed, and they exempted, Nancy Pelosi exempted herself and her staff out of much of what was done in healthcare. That can't be. That's an arrogance that has to stop. So I am committed to saying if we pass laws, we need to abide by those same exact laws that we're putting everybody else under. So thank you.
Thank you very much.